Right, introducing on the show now, we have two people who are in a collective. First one's called DEETZSCH, and the next one's called Solonoid. Right, this is going to be interesting, and I just want to get them on to chat to me about one of their latest singles. How are we?
Yeah,
We are. Thank you very much. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Welcome to the show, both of you. So, DEETZSCH and Solonoid, are you're a duo? Is that what you are usually called, or do you have an outfit for your collective?
Well, we're known as the Light. So the
The
Light is
Lights. So
yeah.
there you have it. DEETZSCH and Solonoid make up the Lights, who are joining me on my show today. So, where are you in the continent or the world right now?
in London.
London, the
London.
capital. Yep, that's where it all happens.
Yeah.
And would you just like to tell me and my listeners just a little bit about yourself? You know, how you kind of met and formed as a group.
Deets, you wanna
So
go?
yeah, I'll go. We both work in West London, and we met each other through um, jobs working in arts and culture around North Kensington. And we've been working on projects in that area for quite a while. And over lockdown and around that time, we started collaborating on music projects, but mainly just sending backing tracks and lyrics and experimenting to see where it led. And it led to forming a collective, which we're still working on and very proud of, called The Lights. And I think that's why we're here, because we released our debut single, Rush, in the last few months.
Nice. We'll talk about that new single shortly. And just so people can find out, about if you've got a website, the Lights is all one word. Is that
The
right?
Lights is all one word, yeah.
Cool. And being a musician, was that something both of you always strived to do, to want to do?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Uh, I
definitely
always loved to
something.
sing since I can remember. So yeah.
Same here. Always been playing music.
And do you embrace all types of music?
Yeah.
Definitely.
And how would you personally describe your music?
I think it's somewhat transcendental, like it's not really a genre, it's just a feeling, it's just a vibe.
Yeah.
Each of our tracks are different, so that's the best way I can put it.
And then when you go into the recording studio, what do you like about that aspect? Do you like being experimental, kind of letting your minds run riot?
Yeah. Freedom.
I think
And
by the time we've got in the studio, it's kind of like the track has already formed quite a bit. So
and
usually,
what are your thoughts on like the latest technology and like some of the sounds on there? Can it be like awe-inspiring?
well, Deech is the producer of our band, and yeah, it's always good to write to different sounds. Um, like he usually makes a combination of like different sounds that create a vibe, which I just make words out of. So it's really useful for me.
Yeah. And so we
Deech.
described some of like the sounds. I know it's sometimes hard to be descriptive of like the musical sounds, but your music's been described as bold, synthetic, as in synthesizers, and atmospheric.
Yeah. So I think about one of our tracks that is on the album that we're currently releasing, and it's called Indian Sea. And the reason why um, we chose that name is because an element of the track actually does sound like the ocean, like it sounds like a wave, and it's kind of like the feeling it evokes is it mentally pictures as a wave. Um, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the main reasons I invited you on the show was to talk about your most recent track called Rush as well.
Yeah.
And
Brush.
yep, please go ahead, tell me more about your new single Rush.
Okay. Um, Rush. Do you want to talk about this one?
Sure, sure. Rush was one of the first ones we collaborated on, and uh, in the recent history, a lot of my uh, work has been in a mixture of sound art and just experimenting and building up sound libraries. And Rush was a result of years of just experimenting and playing around, but then sort of simplifying with synth elements and arpeggiated, almost Moog-like synths. Um, and we started collaborating on that around, I think it was 2021 in lockdown.
Yeah.
And Faye did a brilliant job from a very sort of simple backing track of pulling out this other layer, which has really created like a nice emotional, um, I think more of an emotional narrative than I'd originally thought. It was really the beginning of our collaboration. It's a very significant track, I think, to both of us. But it also, in contrast to a lot of what we do, has a sort of residual melancholy about it that was really um, evident at the time. I think a lot of people felt like that. There was a sort of, maybe not everybody, but some people felt a bit, um, I guess, bereft around the time of lockdown with everything that was going on. There was sort of a sense of isolation and a little bit of loneliness. And I think both of our kind of contributions to this track has captured that really nicely. So, although it's a very simple sort of synth element, there's a sort of sadness to it that I think is quite compelling, actually. And so that really kicked off our relationship because even though we were working remotely, I was, working mainly in a sort of room cupboard where I had my laptop and keyboard, and Faye was at her, in her house and doing voice recordings on her phone. It really wasn't a fancy kind of studio situation, but out of that chaos came something I think which is really, really beautiful. So
Yep, and Rush is available now on all outlets, well, most outlets where people can listen to it.
yeah, Rush
Yes,
is
it is.
on every streaming platform, and you can watch the videos through our website, which is thelights.space.
Sure. And another video which popped up of yours when I was doing some homework for the interview, putting it together, was Grandmama.
Yes.
Can you just tell me I'm a listener about this one as well, Grandmama?
Hey,
Wow. Do you want to go?
well, I think okay. Again, this was something we collaborated on around the same time, a bit later, um, but was uh, sort of a sketch that we were throwing backwards and forwards. Again, working remotely because neither one of us had the chance of really getting in the studio at that point. Um, and it started off as quite a conventional kind of an alternative electronica kind of vibe, but then we stripped it right back to its very basic sort of pulse, almost metronomic beat, um, and it opened up the track into something very interesting where Faye's vocals became the real focal point. And she started carrying the song through her lyrics and ideas, and that kind of gave birth to the idea of the narrative Grandmama, which was this sort of intergenerational story. But I think the backdrop was the soundtrack became the backdrop, or the backing track became very much an atmosphere for for Faye's story in that track, and I think the video reflects that.
Yeah. And has your music been used like in scores, you know, like soundtracks?
Um, well, not yet, no.
Would that be something that you would be interested or keen on doing?
Yeah, I think, well, obviously, with Solonoid's consent, I think we're open to anything. But I definitely am influenced by film scores and that element of music that's really built to evoke
Yeah.
an emotional response. I find that very interesting. And if you put that into a more contemporary, almost pop music context, it can create some really interesting um, fusions
Yeah.
with sound.
There's some great, you know, electronic musicians over the years. One who I follow is called Burial. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him.
No, but I'll look him up.
And who have been like your kind of musical heroes?
I'm pretty straightforward, so it's people like Brian Eno and Hans Zimmer. Those are sort of my sort of giants of music as far as um, creating emotional responses and experimental music.
And Giorgio Moroder, he was quite well known in the 80s and beyond.
Yeah.
And do you do any live gigs together, you know, music venues, or do you prefer to just kind of be behind the scenes recording music?
Well, we're working towards performances over the next few months at a few venues around London, and that's going to be a mixture of live performance from Solonoid, visuals, both analog and digital. But we're very interested in actually working at the moment in translating what essentially has started as digital music into an acoustic environment. So it's a much more sort of a human experience when performing it. So definitely interested in that and very much working towards that around September, October.
Great. Well, great things to look forward to. And in the meantime, we got your new single. Would you like for me to preview it on my radio show for you?
That would be lovely.
Great. So I'm joined by DEETZSCH and Solonoid from the Lights on my radio show. Thanks for joining me. Just find out a little bit about yourselves and, of course, plug your new single now on my show. Thanks for your contribution on today's show
Thanks for having
Thank
us.
you. Have a good day.
and
Have a good
yourself.
day.